What if the greatest battle of your life is not happening around you, but inside your own mind? What if the voice telling you that you're tired, stuck, hopeless, or broken isn't the truth at all, but simply a pattern your brain has learned to repeat? Right now, millions of people wake up every morning feeling trapped in their own thoughts, convinced that the darkness they feel will never change. But here's the truth most people never discover. Your mind can be trained, redirected, and rebuilt. The same brain that creates fear can create strength. The same mind that repeats pain can learn to produce power. The question is not whether your life can change. The question is whether you're ready to take back control of the most powerful tool you possess. Because the reality is simple. If you don't command your mind will command you. It will replay old memories, amplify doubts, and convince you that the future will look exactly like the past. But that cycle can be broken. The moment you understand how your focus, your physiology, your questions, and your purpose shape your mental state, everything begins to shift. Depression stops feeling like an unbreakable prison and starts revealing itself as a pattern that can be interrupted and replaced. In the next few minutes, you're going to discover powerful principles that can completely transform the way you think, feel, and respond to life. You'll learn how to stop the destructive thought loops that drain your energy, how to shift your emotional state in minutes, and how to train your mind to focus on growth instead of pain. You'll understand why your thoughts are not your identity, why movement can destroy mental darkness, and how purpose can pull you out of the deepest emotional struggle. If you stay with me until the end, you're going to walk away with tools that can help you reclaim your mental strength, rebuild your confidence, and start moving forward again. Because the moment you decide to take control of your mind, you begin taking control of your life. Control your mind or it controls you. That is the battle most people never realize they are fighting every single day. Your mind is the most powerful tool you possess, but if you don't learn to direct it, it will start directing you. And when your mind begins running on autopilot, it tends to replay the same negative thoughts again and again. Thoughts like, I'm not good enough, nothing will change, or why does everything go wrong for me? These thoughts feel real, but the truth is they are patterns. They are mental habits formed through repetition. Your brain has simply learned to follow the same emotional road over and over again. The problem is that once this pattern begins, it starts shaping your entire reality. Your mood changes, your energy drops, your motivation disappears, and slowly your world begins to shrink. But the most important thing you must understand is this. Your mind was not designed to control you. It was designed to be controlled by you. The moment you begin to consciously direct your focus, your body, and your internal dialogue, you begin taking back authority over your life. Most people wait until they feel better before they act differently, but that is the trap. Feelings follow actions. When you change how you move, how you breathe, how you speak to yourself, you begin sending new signals to your brain, and those signals start creating new emotional states. Control doesn't come from waiting for motivation. Control comes from deciding that your mind will no longer dictate your future. Break the negative thought loop. Depression often grows from a mental loop that repeats day after day. Your brain wakes up and instantly begins replaying the same story, past failures, regrets, disappointments, fears about the future. The brain is extremely efficient at strengthening whatever patterns it repeats. Every time you rehearse a painful thought, you strengthen that pathway. Over time, your brain begins to default to it automatically. That is why negative thinking can feel impossible to escape. But what most people don't realize is that loops can be interrupted. The human brain is wired to respond to pattern breaks. The moment you disrupt the cycle, you weaken the grip that pattern has over you. This can be done through movement, through changing your physical state, through shifting your focus, or through asking your mind a completely different question. Instead of asking, why does this keep happening to me? Ask, what can I do right now to move forward? Instead of replaying what went wrong yesterday, force your attention toward what you can build today. Your brain cannot focus on two things at the same time. When you deliberately redirect your attention, you begin starving the old pattern of energy. And when the old pattern loses energy, it slowly begins to fade. This is how mental freedom begins. Not by eliminating every negative thought, but by refusing to feed the same destructive loop that has been running your life. The moment you recognize the pattern and interrupt it, you create space for a new pattern to grow. And once that new pattern begins repeating, One day, one action, one decision at a time, your mind starts working for you instead of against you. Your thoughts are not you. One of the biggest mistakes people make is believing that every thought in their mind represents who they truly are. A thought appears and immediately it feels personal, permanent, and powerful. But a thought is simply a mental event. It's a pattern of electricity and chemistry moving through your brain, often triggered by habits you've repeated for years. Just because your mind produces a thought does not mean it defines you. Your brain has been collecting experiences, fears, beliefs, and memories since the day you were born. It stores them, connects them, and sometimes replays them without permission. When someone is struggling with depression, the brain becomes extremely good at replaying painful narratives. I'm a failure. Nothing will ever change. I'll always feel like this. The danger comes when you start identifying with those thoughts instead of observing them. The moment you believe every thought is the truth, you give those thoughts power over your identity. But the truth is much different. You are the observer of your thoughts, not the prisoner of them. When you begin to step back and notice what your mind is doing, something powerful happens. You create distance between who you are and what your mind is saying. Instead of reacting automatically, you start questioning the thought. Is it useful? Is it helping me grow? Is it actually true? Most of the time, the answer is no. Your mind has simply been repeating an old script. Once you recognize this, you stop giving those thoughts absolute authority. You begin choosing which thoughts deserve your attention and which ones deserve to be ignored. And the more you practice this awareness, the more control you gain over your emotional state. Your identity stops being defined by random mental noise and starts being shaped by intentional focus. Change your state, change your life. Emotional states control the quality of your decisions, your actions, and ultimately your entire life. When your state is low, when your body is tired, your breathing is shallow, your posture collapses, your brain begins producing thoughts that match that physical condition. You feel hopeless, drained, and stuck. But what most people don't realize is that emotional states are not fixed. They are created through a combination of physiology, focus, and internal language. Change one of those elements and you begin shifting the entire system. Your body plays a massive role in this process. The way you stand, move, breathe, and speak directly influences how your brain interprets your situation. When you sit still for hours, slouched over, breathing shallowly, your brain reads that posture as weakness or danger. It reacts by producing stress hormones and negative thinking patterns. But when you stand tall, breathe deeply, move your body with intensity, and use your voice with strength, your brain receives a completely different signal. Suddenly, your nervous system starts adjusting, energy rises, clarity improves, confidence begins to appear. This is why physical movement is one of the fastest ways to break emotional darkness. Your body becomes the lever that shifts your psychology. At the same time, your focus determines what your brain searches for. If you constantly focus on problems, your mind produces more evidence of problems. If you shift your focus towards solutions, growth, and possibility, your brain begins searching for opportunities instead. State changes happen when physiology and focus work together. A simple walk, a powerful breath, a shift in posture, or a deliberate change in what you concentrate on can begin transforming your emotional condition within minutes. Over time, these small state shifts compound. What once felt like a permanent emotional prison becomes something flexible, something you can influence and direct. When you master the ability to change your state, you stop waiting for life to improve before you feel better, and you start generating the emotional strength needed to change your life. Focus creates your reality. What you consistently focus on determines the emotions you feel, the meaning you give to your experiences, and the direction your life begins to move. The human brain is like a powerful search engine. It constantly scans your environment and your memories to find evidence that matches whatever you are focusing on. If your focus is locked on problems, mistakes, and disappointments, your brain will dig through thousands of memories and situations to prove that life is difficult and unfair. That constant focus slowly shapes how you see the world. Even small challenges start feeling overwhelming because your mind has trained itself to search for danger and negativity. But the same mechanism can work in your favor if you learn to control it. When you deliberately shift your focus toward growth, solutions, and progress, your brain begins collecting evidence that supports those ideas. You start noticing opportunities you ignored before. You recognize lessons inside failures. You see small victories that once seemed invisible. Focus is powerful because your mind cannot fully concentrate on two opposing things at the same time. When you consciously direct your attention towards something empowering, you weaken the emotional grip of the negative patterns that once dominated your thinking. Over time, this repeated shift begins rewiring how your brain interprets reality. Interrupt the depression pattern. Depression often operates like a loop that runs automatically in the background of your mind. The same thoughts appear, the same emotions follow, and the same behaviors repeat day after day. The brain becomes comfortable with that pattern, even if it is painful, because the brain prefers familiarity over uncertainty. That is why people sometimes feel trapped inside the same emotional cycle. But every pattern has a weak point. It depends on repetition. The moment you disrupt that repetition, the pattern loses strength. Pattern interruption can happen in many ways, but it always begins with awareness. The instant you notice the cycle starting, when the same negative thoughts begin replaying, you can choose to break the sequence. Stand up and move your body, change your breathing, step outside, speak to someone, shift your attention to a completely different task. These actions may seem simple, but they send a powerful signal to your brain that the old script will no longer run automatically. Each time you interrupt the pattern, you weaken the mental pathway that supports it. And when that interruption happens repeatedly, the brain begins forming a new pathway that leads toward action, energy, and forward movement. Movement destroys mental darkness. When you stay still, your energy sinks and your mind begins feeding on negative thoughts. The body and mind are deeply connected. And when you move with intensity, walking, stretching, breathing deeply, you shift your chemistry. Energy rises, stress hormones drop, and your brain starts producing momentum instead of heaviness. Ask better questions, get better emotions. Your mind answers whatever questions you give it. If you ask, why is my life so hard? Your brain will search for proof. But when you ask, what can I learn from this, or what can I do next? Your mind begins looking for solutions, possibilities, and progress instead of problems. Purpose is the antidote to depression. When life feels empty, the mind drifts toward darkness. But the moment you give your energy to something meaningful, helping someone, building something, contributing, you activate a deeper drive inside you. Purpose pulls your attention forward and replaces the heavy feeling of being stuck. One powerful decision changes everything. Transformation rarely begins with perfect conditions. It begins with a decision. The moment you decide that your mind will no longer control your life, your actions start shifting. Small steps follow that decision, and those steps slowly build the momentum that changes everything. The truth is simple, but it is powerful. Your mind is not your enemy unless you leave it untrained. Left alone, it will replay fear, magnify doubt, and convince you that the pain you feel today will last forever. But the moment you become aware of how your focus, your questions, your movement, and your purpose shape your emotional state, something incredible happens. You realize you are not powerless. You are the one holding the steering wheel. Depression feeds on passivity. It grows when you believe nothing can change. But the moment you take even one intentional step, changing your focus, moving your body, asking a stronger question, choosing a meaningful purpose, you begin interrupting the pattern that once controlled you. Progress does not come from waiting for motivation. It comes from deciding that your life is worth fighting for, that your mind deserves discipline, and that your future will not be dictated by old thoughts. So take this moment seriously. Pay attention to what your mind is feeding you every day. Challenge the thoughts that weaken you. Strengthen the habits that move you forward. And remind yourself that every powerful transformation in history began with a single decision to rise above limitation. Thank you for spending this time with Alpha Motivation. If this message gave you clarity, strength, or even one new perspective, make sure to like the video, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel so you never miss the next motivational speech designed to help you master your mindset and unlock your full potential. Stay focused, stay disciplined, and get ready for the next powerful message that could change the way you see your life.